So when Okay, everybody, welcome back to One on One. This is episode 7. Today, Howie Simon.
7,
Howie
yo.
Simon. Yes, he's in the house. Howie Simon is a guitar virtuoso. I'm sure he's not happy with me calling him that. There he goes with a spit take. But in reality, he is one of the best motherfuckers there are out there playing guitar. Howie's played, I don't want to go on with your credits. You did recently fill in with Striper.
Twice.
I saw that. Twice.
Like I did it at the end of 2018, and then they called me again at the end of last year as well.
Nice. And you kicked ass.
Well, thank you. They're a great bunch of guys, and I love those tunes. So those songs play themselves to me. You know, it's so much fun and so easy to do for me anyway, because I grew up listening to that.
Yeah. So you also played with Nelson.
No, I still do.
You still do.
I've been playing with those guys. This is 10 years now. It's not super busy all the time, but when shows come up, we go out and do some really cool stuff. We did a really cool show at the end of last summer at the Iowa State Fair, big outdoor one, and I think we have some stuff coming up later in the year. Well, hopefully coming up later in the year. We'll see.
Nice. And then you also did, you also used to play with Alcatraz. I've seen you with Alcatraz many, many times.
Yeah. Back when you lived here in LA.
Yeah. And we could go on, but I'd like to just jump right in. And first of all, how you doing, man?
I'm doing all right. I'm here you can't see it now behind me because it's dark here, but it is raining here in LA. And I'm hanging out with my good friend Barbie right here.
Nice. Awesome. I also see that Mezza Barber amp to your right, or to your left, my right.
Yes. That is my Trinity, and my M0 overdrive is off the camera view over there in the corner.
All right, so let's figure out some stuff. You grew up in Buffalo.
Yep.
When did you come out to Los Angeles?
I came out at the very beginning of '94. In fact, you remember that the Bills were in 4 Super Bowls in a row and lost all 4 of them. No lie, on the night of the 4th one, and this was by design, whether they won or lost, I watched the game that day while packing the whole day, packing up a U-Haul, watched the game, and after the game was over, said goodbye to my parents, and started the drive out here that night.
Wow.
That Sunday night.
Nice. And so what were some of the first gigs you got when you came out here? Did you know people, or did you just kind of...
No, I didn't. Well, that's not true. I had friends and nobody that was really doing much. I had musician friends who were kind of, you got to remember it's 94 at that point. So
sure.
The heyday was gone. Some of the clubs were still here and there was still some stuff going on, but it just really wasn't like I had seen it in the 80s, but that was okay. I was prepared for that.
Right.
The first thing I did was I got a job at a music store that's long gone, that was in North Hollywood, just selling guitars and doing day-to-day retail stuff like that. But I figured if I'm in a music store, I'm in a hub where people are coming in all day and I can tell them what I do and yada, yada, yada. And I had that job for, 2 or 3 years with it. The owner of that store actually bought a couple of others, and I went off to one up in North Hills, which is near Northridge, wound up managing that store for a bit, and then I was done with that in '97. But I guess the first real gig I got was with a guy named Ken Tamplin, who he was the first guy that I went to Europe with, and did a lot of stuff with that guy. 6 or 7 tours of Europe. We went to Japan and did a few shows, I think in like '98. I did a ton of recording with him on albums and TV show soundtracks, commercial jingles. We did the theme song for Ace Ventura: Pet Detective. I played guitar on it. And,
nice. Now, Ken has that music school, right? He's the vocal coach guy.
I think he's doing a vocal. I haven't spoken to him in a while, but he did a lot for me. And then in the meantime, here in town, me and some really close friends started a Metallica tribute band in the mid to late 90s and did that for 7, 8 years.
Oh, wow.
And called Alcoholica. And the singer,
Appropriate.
the James Hetfield guy wound up playing in a bunch of bands too. He wound up in Wasp, and he was one of the first guitar players in Five Finger Death Punch, who are huge now.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
So
yeah, wasn't Ken Tamplin, wasn't he Sammy Hagar's cousin?
I think something like that, yeah.
Yeah. I watch sometimes, I see him post on Facebook or something, and I see. Okay, it's cool. So that takes us, you were playing Metallica cover band. That had to take you into the 2000s, huh?
Yeah, I think, well, yeah, we did it for the last show was 2003. And we had a residency in Vegas for a while and did like a lot of the clubs where the tribute bands would play here in LA. It was fun. It was a fun group of guys, and I love that gig. I'm not a Metallica fan, really.
Yeah.
But it was a workout. Like, you'd finish the show, and it'd been like you had been working out hard for an hour, drenched in sweat, and just completely spent. And, you'd slump down in a chair afterwards and be like, woo! And, it's been a while since I've had that feeling after a gig where you're just
right,
wiped, the head banging and all that, which has taken its toll on my neck and back over the years. But, yeah, I think 2003 was the last gig for that. But in the meantime, I had, through a friend at that music store I worked at, one of the guys who worked there was living with Jeff Scott Soto. So I met Jeff through him and started playing with him. Jeff used to have like a pretty well-known hardcore party and Christmas party every year. And one year I went, he invited me through his old roommate, and it turned into a drunken jam session at like 3 a.m. And weirdly, Alcatraz songs were being played. And Jeff was like, geez, I didn't know you played like that, like the Yngwie stuff. So he just sight unseen said, hey, I got a gig in England, a one-off gig coming up. You want to do it? And a record that he was doing. And I recorded. Actually, one of the songs was cool that was on that record. I'm a huge Glenn Hughes fan from Deep Purple and so many other bands. He wound up having Glenn come in and sing on one of the songs that we did. So that was a huge thrill for me. And it's still cool.
Oh, yeah.
So we went and did that one show in England. The drummer and the bass player were friends of Jeff's. They lived in Florida at the time. I had never met them. So Jeff and I flew down to Florida for 2 days, rehearsed a couple times over the 2 days, flew to England, did the gig, and filmed the thing as a live DVD. And it came out, and people loved it. And the next year, because the DVD and a live record from it as well were so successful, we wound up touring all over Europe. I mean, everywhere. And then did it in 2003, did it in 2004, did it in 2005. In the meantime, put out another record, yada, yada, yada. So
right.
I got really busy with Jeff through those years.
And what was the name of that band? Because I think I had the DVD.
Just Jeff Scott Soto. We're just using
it's Jeff Scott Soto?
Okay, the DVD was called
Japan, right?
No. The DVD was called Live at the Gods 2002. It was filmed in Bradford, England.
Oh,
and
England.
Yeah, in England.
Nice.
But yeah, Jeff and I've worked on and off with Jeff throughout the years since then, and still I get people sending me messages. Man, I love that DVD, because in 2003, the next year, we went and played in Prestatyn, Wales, at the International Queen Fan Club. They did a once-a-year thing, and it's almost like a religious cult where they think Freddie Mercury is coming back from the grave. It was freaky, man. But we did a set there and filmed that and put it out as a DVD called I can't remember, the Queen set or whatever. It's 2.5 hours of us doing Queen, and people still to this day are like, I love that DVD. Those 2 DVDs, I watch them all the time still. I watch them now, and they're so old I cringe, because it was old school. They were like not shot in high def, and are grainy, kind of like my webcam is old. It looks like that.
You're playing with Jeff Scott Soto. But I saw that. Actually, I think I met you 2004-ish.
It's blurry, man. It's a long time ago. I know
it is a long time. I think it was 2003 or 4. But yes, and I saw you. I think you were playing with Jeff Scott Soto at that time.
Well, in the meantime, like around then, 2003 is when I met Graham Bonnet and started playing with him as well. So I was doing both at that point.
Oh, right. That's right. And Alcatraz. Yeah.
Well, for the first 3 years, two and a half, 3 years, give or take, I played with Graham. We just called it Graham Bonnet, and we weren't doing much. We were just doing some small local shows, and then I called him one night and said, hey, I went to the Whiskey and I saw somebody, I don't remember who, one of those 80s hair metal bands, and I'm like, there was one original member left, and it was like the drummer or something. And I'm like, wait a minute.
Right.
What am I seeing here? Not that there's anything wrong with that, but I'm like, if they can call their band that, we have the singer from Alcatraz who actually wrote all the songs. Why don't we bring the name back? So I actually did some research, and at that point, nobody owned the name. The last person who, you can go on like the USPTO, the Patent and Trademark website, and see who owns a trademark and a patent. And the last person who owned it was their manager, Andy Truman, from back in the day. And I knew at that point he was dead. So it was a dead trademark. It was a passed away guy who owned it in the past. So I called Graham and I said, why don't we do this? You know, it's a band name. It's a little more recognizable, and see what happens. So he slept on it and called me the next day and said, okay, let's try it. So all we did was we went to his house a couple days later and did a photo shoot in his backyard, the four of us. It was me, Graham, Glenn Sobel playing drums, who's playing with Alice Cooper now, and Tim Luce, our bass player for the whole time. And I had a friend of mine, Chris McCarville, who actually is sort of in your neighborhood. He's somewhere back Massachusetts, Connecticut. He plays bass in Dawkin now, but he's a graphic artist. I called him up and asked him if he could take the old Alcatraz logo and just kind of metal it out and modernize it a little bit. So we took that photo and we took the logo and we just put it up online. That was it. It was MySpace at the time. Boom.
Right.
And just to see what people would say. And all of a sudden we started getting emails and phone calls. And within 3 months, I had a tour of Japan booked for us.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, it was fun. And you know, I did all the booking for that thing. So it's a lot of work, but I learned a lot. And it was a great time. We did it for 10 years altogether, counting from the first show with Graham to the end of Alcatraz.
Wow. You also were a hired gun for other projects as well, I believe. Because I remember you used to do acoustic gigs, and you were always just wanting to work.
Well, I'm one of those guitar whores. If somebody's going to pay me to do it, I'm going to do it. Whether it's
as you should.
I would come off just like most musicians who are probably watching this. You come off a tour like that. You're playing in Tokyo in front of a couple thousand people one night. The next night, I'm playing a solo acoustic gig in Burbank in front of 25 or 30 people. Just
right.
It's all the same. You know, a gig is a gig. I enjoy playing, and you know, as long as I'm making a living, that's fine with me.
Yeah, you've done some of the cruises.
Right. Well, the group that runs the Monsters of Rock cruises has a few of them. They have Monsters of Rock. They do one called Cruise to the Edge, which is all prog bands like Yes and Spock's Beard and stuff like that, which I have not done. And they do another one that they were calling the Moody Blues Cruise, which was based on older classic bands. The Moody Blues were usually the headliner, and then it would be bands like Alan Parsons and Ambrosia and Jefferson Starship and stuff like that.
Right.
I did that once a couple of years ago just as an acoustic artist, and something happened with the Moody Blues. I don't know if they broke up or what they did, but they changed the name of the cruise from Moody Blues to On the Blue. And I'm actually, what's today's date? I'm looking in the corner. I'm supposed to be getting off that boat right now. If we weren't in this zombie apocalypse, I was going to be on that doing an acoustic duo with a real great guitar player, singer guy named Steve Kramer. We were going to team up and do that. I missed out on that gig this week. They were the ones who did a Def Leppard cruise a couple years ago, and I did that with acoustically with Eric Martin, the singer from Mr. Big as well. It's back in 2016.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now I can see. I'm sorry. We're all over the place here. I see you have that Mezza Barba. Now Mezza Barba, you play those. Mezza Barba. Yes. From Italy. Where in Italy are they made?
Farnese. It's maybe, I'm not sure the geography, but it's somewhere between 50 and 100 miles away from Rome.
Oh, all right.
So they're locked
Very
down.
cool.
Like
Now, how long you been playing them for?
Oh, geez. 5 years. I was the first guy in America to have, well, JP Cervoni, who's the American liaison for the amp, he had like a prototype, and I had the first one here in America of the M0 Overdrive, and then this is the new Trinity, the 3-channel amp right here. And that came out last year, a year and a half ago. They are beasts. They're absolutely amazing sounding amps, from, especially this one with 3 channels, from ultra clean to amazing high gain. And they're not like, it's not a heavy metal amp. It's a rock amp. It's alive and it's musical and it breathes and it's got depth, and it's not just like a scooped one-dimensional thing like a lot of metal. I'm not going to bash on any amps, but it doesn't hurt that it looks good. No, it's a good-looking amp. The Italians and their race car designs. It's like the Ferrari of amps.
And so recently you've been playing, I believe, Freedman Guitars.
Well, are you still doing that podcast with John Bingham?
We don't do the podcast, but I talk to John on, every other day. We're yapping back and forth.
Well, as I don't know if anybody's watching this at all, but you and I have a...
Hold on a sec. Hold on. What are you, disparaging my show?
No, I'm disparaging this episode of it because it's me. I'm sure a lot of people watch your show.
You'll get views.
But this is like the very special episode of Blossom where nobody tuned in because all she did was cry through the whole thing. I didn't watch that.
Right. This is the dark episode of Good Times when JJ was marrying the heroin addict.
Wait, what's that show you were all into a few years ago? The 70s one with the fat guys.
Cannon. I love Cannon.
Yeah.
You know what's funny is the other day somebody posted a Rocky and Bullwinkle clip, and I'm like, oh my God, that's Cannon talking. Rocky, yeah, he's the one that did the voiceover on it. But it hit me like a ton of lead. I was like, oh, that's Cannon's voice. I know that anywhere now.
Yeah. So what I was saying is, you and I have a longtime mutual friend, John Bingham.
Yes.
And he's large and has red hair. And
sounds like Bingham.
So he recently got. When did he get the job at Boutique Amp? He got a job at Boutique Amp Distribution a year or two ago.
Yeah. Oh, no. 6 months to a year, maybe.
Okay. 2018, I got the gig with filling in for Stryper for Ozfox because Oz has some health problems. It's not a secret. He's got a couple of growths in his head. He had a seizure on stage during a local gig at home for another band that he does. And they did a scan and found a couple tumors, and he's, working on treating that, yada, yada, yada. Yeah. So they called me to fill in doing 4 shows. Oz recommended me, and, it's fantastic. So, but I needed a guitar with a Floyd Rose and 24 frets. And I'm a Stratton 1 Les Paul guy, but that's all I had. And they just weren't going to do the job. So I have a friend who has an amazing collection of guitars, and he had a super ornate, albeit green and not black and yellow like the Stryper colors like what you're wearing now.
Right.
But he had a green, if you could see pictures of this guitar, it was insane. It's a Sir Custom Modern with the most ornate design in the wood on the neck, and the body is just insane. I borrowed it for 4 gigs with Stryper. And I got home at the 4th gig, and I'm looking at the guitar, and I fucking put a ding in it. He paid $7,000 or more for this guitar. I put a ding in it. I felt horrible. Yeah. He's like, oh, no big deal, dude. But deep down, I'm like, oh, God, what have I done? So, wow, it's really raining hard here in LA. Jeez, it's like pouring. I know you can't tell, but not usual for us here. So the Stryper thing came around again this past year, and I knew I couldn't ask him to borrow it again. So I needed something with a Floyd like that. So what I did was I started shopping online, and I found a Sir, not as nearly as ornate as the one that my friend had, and it was on Craigslist. And I went over to the guy's house and I lowballed him, and he took the offer. And I was really thankful. And
Yeah.
I said, look, money's tight, and you're going to help me put food on my table with this guitar, even though you're taking a loss. And he wasn't happy with the guitar, and he just wanted to get rid of it. So I was real thankful for that. But in the meantime, John Bingham calls me up and like, hey, we started talking, and I mentioned why I needed a Floyd Rose guitar. And he said, well, why don't you check out some of these Freedmans? And I said, well, I just spent a bunch of money. He's like, well, maybe I can, get you some kind of deal or something. So basically, I just went down to the factory one day, and he gave me the tour. And it's an amazing facility down there. It's huge. I had no idea.
Yeah.
All those amps that they make, the Freedman stuff, and Solano, and I mean, there's like 4 or 5 other amps, and the guitars, there was a room for those. Unbelievable. And I found this black one. I played a couple of guitars that were cool, and they looked nice. And then he brought out this kind of pre-aged relict black one with a black headstock, all black. And I'm like, it was only 22 frets, but I already bought this Sir. So I'm like, oh my God, I love this guitar right out of the gate. Just like, this thing feels like butter.
Yeah.
And they let me borrow it. And then I had a little meeting with them at this past NAMM show, and they said, you're going to, there's not a lot of guys out there using them. And I'm like, somebody should be out there using these things because they're great. And the number one comment I have gotten on this guitar over and over and over again is, Freedman, I didn't even know they were making guitars.
Yeah.
So somebody's got to advertise these things more. Because, I'm not saying it just because they invited me in. I'm saying it because this guitar is truly phenomenal. And at home, I play this thing all the time. So
yeah, Bingham was saying, he was saying they were pretty fantastic too.
Yeah, they are. And they're amazing. And, it's a Grover Jackson build, a Dave Freedman design, co-design. And it feels good in your hand. Right out of the gate, it felt like an old shoe. And I did a few upgrades on it. I got hooked up with a company called FU Tone, Adam River, who's like the guru of tone and knows everything about Floyd Roses. He sent me, for both of my Floyd Rose guitars, I got titanium thicker bridge blocks, which make them sing way more, and some of the tinniness is gone. They're beefier sounding, and he gave me noiseless springs, which are like night and day. I had no idea until I put them in. Like, oh, wow, they feel better. And then the other day I got hooked up with, I got a package of these right here, Tone Vice. Mark Hackett is the owner of this company. Yeah. And they're keyless lock things, nut locks for Floyd, so I won't need an Allen wrench up top. And he's got prototypes built for where you just slide the string in the bottom now and pull it and lock it tight with your hand. So those are being built right now. I actually talked to him earlier today. So nice. Within a few months, I'm not going to need an Allen wrench at all with that guitar anymore, or either guitar. So it's great.
And are you still using, I remember back in the day, we're using the exotic effects. I think you had an AC booster way back in the day.
I have a huge arsenal of exotic stuff, but I take the EP booster with me everywhere I go. I don't leave home without it. That's the little mini pedal one. I use their compressor, the SP compressor, but I have everything. I've got the Robotalk 2, I've got the AC booster, the RC booster, I got the RC version 2, which is on my pedal board right now. I've got the SL drive, their distortion pedal, which I use for certain stuff. I did the Monsters of Rock cruise, not this past one, but 2018. I played with my friend Richie Kotzen, and I didn't want to do my typical thing, so I just took the SL drive as my main sound, and it was fantastic.
Oh, nice, yeah. What about Derek St. Holmes? When did you gig with him? I remember seeing that you were gigging with him at one point.
Derek. I love him. Well, I do a thing that I've been doing for 8 or 9 years now called Scrap Metal. It's an all-star project that's run by Gunnar Nelson. And for those of you who don't know what it is, every gig is different. So it's me playing guitar and a drummer and sometimes a keyboard player. Usually Jeff Bowders plays drums. He played with Paul Gilbert for years in a solo band. And when we do We do bring a keyboard player. It's Gary Corbett, who's a Nashville guy now. He's originally a New York guy. He played for years touring with Kiss back in the 80s, and he played with Cyndi Lauper and a bunch of others. He's great. I love Gary. And so the band is the Nelson brothers, Gunnar and Matt, and most of the time Mark Slaughter. And that's kind of like the backing band and the core of scrap metal. So what we do is we come out and we play the three big Nelson hits, like Love and Affection, After the Rain, and More Than Ever. And then we'll do the three big Slaughter hits, like Up All Night and Flight of the Angels. And usually we do Mad About You. Those are like the three big songs for each band. So there's the first 6 songs of the night. And then whoever the guests are at that particular gig will come out and do their 3 hits. Like Derek St. Holmes will come out and do Cat Scratch Fever, and of course Stranglehold and Hey Baby. We've had the list of people who've come through and played with us is amazing. Brad Whitford from Aerosmith, Stephen Pearcy from Rat, Lita Ford, Janet Gardner from Vixen, Derek St. Holmes, Jeff Scott Soto. I brought Graham Bonnet in. God, I'm forgetting how many. Pat Travers has done it. Barry Goudreau, the original guitar player in Boston. Michael Sweet from Stryper. That's how I met him the first time, really. So, and I'm forgetting a whole bunch. Eric Martin. Phil Lewis from LA Guns just did one. Ted Poley from Danger Danger did his first one a few months ago. So I met Derek through that, and then a couple gigs. I got an offer to do the cruise, that Monsters of Rock cruise, in 2015, and because I had been booking Alcatraz, they called me like, "Do you want to play?" And I said, "Well, we don't do the band anymore. I bring Derek St. Holmes instead." And I called Derek up, and he was like, "Hell yeah, let's do it." And then I played some shows with him around the NAMM time, and we did a few other things together. And he called me a few weeks ago, but today's the 7th, in like 2 weeks from now, we were supposed to do some scrap gigs in Michigan. We had a casino gig, and then something at a club outside Detroit. Can't remember where, but it was going to be Nelson, Slaughter, Derek, and Phil Lewis. And obviously those gigs just got postponed. So,
everyone. Yeah, the whole gig situation is just an absolute mess.
But in the meantime, I remember, back in the 2000s coming to see you at West LA Music. I would come down there and hang out all the time.
Yeah.
And
totally.
did couple parties at, was it Mark Spiewak?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and you and I did New Year's one year down at my buddy's down in
buddy's place.
Hermosa.
Yeah,
exactly. That was it. We smoked cigars and hung out. It was a good time.
I've got a picture of us smoking cigars somewhere.
Yeah. It was a good time.
Was your brother there that night? I can't remember.
I don't remember. I don't remember if Richard was there. I think you've met him before, though, haven't you? My brother Richard?
Yeah. I've met him before.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I mean, West LA was like a fun gig. Yeah, I met you shortly after the Big Angry kind of stopped playing out. We stopped doing our gigs, and I wasn't really playing as much. But yeah, I mean, it was always a lot of fun seeing you play at all the different places. I always tell people you really want to see, some great playing, because you're a great player.
Well, thank you.
No,
and then
just
we did that movie session. You brought me in to play bass because you wanted to play guitar, you prick.
That's right. I had to, right?
Bigger,
yeah, that was a big
faster.
That's right. You played bass on that with we had Ray Luzier on drums.
Who's in Korn now? Yeah.
Yeah.
I saw Ray. I did where was I? I had a gig. Oh, I did a Stryper gig in Nashville back in the fall, and we flew to Nashville. We were walking through the airport. We heard our names called, and it was Ray. He was on his way out of the airport and stuff like that.
Oh, that's funny.
So he was going to
he's a good guy.
I love Ray.
Yeah, he's a real drummer. Guy. Oh, sick. One of my favorites. When we banged that out, I think we did just a few takes and we had it.
It was Bigger, Stronger, Faster, that steroid documentary, which is great. Anybody who hasn't seen it should still go see it because it's fantastic. Even if you don't know anything about steroids or anything, it's a great watch for just knowing nothing about it. Yeah. But we did two cues for the movie, and only one of them made it in it.
Right.
We did that Genesis cover, and
Right, the Genesis one, because I think Disturbed at the last minute changed their mind and wanted to get in the movie. Do you remember afterwards I had to do a bluegrass cue, and Gabe Witcher came in from the Punch Brothers, and he played every instrument. Remember you were hanging out with me? We were like, we hate this
Right.
guy. This guy came in and played upright bass, mandolin, acoustic guitar, solos and everything all in one take. We were
One
like,
take,
what?
yeah.
Oh, I hate him. But he's been doing great because he plays in the Punch Brothers, which is a bluegrass group. But Gabe Witcher I thought that was hilarious because you stayed with me. It was just me, my engineer, and you hung out, and we were like, what the hell's up with this guy? It was nuts. And so what's the future hold? What are we looking at? What are you, do you have projects in the works?
Well, who can answer that right now, really?
Well, I mean, when this virus thing passes by, as we hope.
Well, I don't know. Nobody's really knows what's going to happen with rebooking that cruise. I really want to do that, and I hope that happens because the lineup on the Blue Cruise that I was supposed to do acoustically, the lineup was insane. It was Justin Hayward from the Moody Blues, Art Garfunkel, Alan Parsons, David Pack from Ambrosia.
Oh, I love David Pack.
Yeah, I know. Fireball. Oh, Glenn Hughes doing Deep Purple live on it. Al Stewart was on it. It was unbelievable.
Oh,
And
wow. That's like a yacht rock cruise.
Yeah, well, half and half because Glenn Hughes would be rocking it up, but just a great lineup. So we're waiting to see if it gets rebooked, or we don't know what's going to happen. And these scrap metal gigs, I know there's going to be more scrap stuff coming up. And I guess I didn't mention that I am a regular sub in Winger. I subbed for John Roth, who is the other guitar player. That's an ongoing thing for me. So the thing is, John, who is an immensely talented guy, a great singer, unbelievably good guitar player, a Memphis guy. He's been in Winger since 92 or 93. Most people don't even know that he's there, which is really a crime. But he also plays in the Mickey Thomas version of Jefferson Starship. There's 2 versions of Starship out there right now touring.
Oh, there are?
Yeah, there's one with Jude Gold playing guitar and a great female singer named Kathy Richardson singing. They were on that cruise with me, the Moody Blues cruise a couple of years ago. And then Mickey Thomas, that was the one that Paul Kantner was in before he passed away. And then Mickey Thomas has Mickey Thomas's Starship. So John Roth does double duty with Winger and Starship. So on the weekends, we do fly dates. So on the weekends where we're both bands are booked and John, gets double booked, he gives me the Winger gig and he goes and takes the Starship gig. That's how it works.
Now the Starship gig, not the Mickey Thomas, but the other one, they're doing more like the Count on Me, Miracles, right? The Marty Balin Starship, or are they doing the,
I haven't seen him in 4 years. It seemed like it was from what I recall, it was a mix of everything. If you haven't seen Kathy Richardson sing, log on to YouTube, find a video, and just your hair on your arm is going to stand up. She's incredible. But yeah, I don't know as far as the material. I'm not that well versed in Starship's history to know what's what. Unfortunately,
well, you remember the tunes like "Only You Believe."
Yeah, that's the Marty Balin. I think they did that, but I don't know if
because I think that was the stuff Kantner was Kantner. Is that his name? Kantner?
Yeah.
I think that's the stuff Kantner was in or trying to bring back.
Yeah. Could be.
I thought. Yeah, I thought. I mean, I have no effing clue, but I thought so. So you're playing Freedman Guitars. I'm trying to think of things.
So just to finish the thing. So Winger, the other thing is, Red Beach, who plays in Winger, obviously,
and
he gets busy with Whitesnake. So Winger hasn't been all that busy the last couple of years because Whitesnake, who used to go out every other year, has been going out every year and doing a lot of dates. So David Coverdale just announced a couple weeks ago or last week that not because of the virus, but Whitesnake's pulling off the road for the whole year. They had a whole bunch of stuff booked, a tour with Sammy Hagar, a Night Ranger, and some other stuff. Right. He pulled it all because I guess he's got some kind of bad hernia or double hernia where he needs an operation. So Whitesnake's done for the year, which means hopefully Winger's going to get busier, which means there's more opportunities for me to possibly go out and sub for John.
Oh, that'd be great. Now this is a sensitive area because I know you're a Coverdale fan, but I heard Coverdale and Paul Stanley were putting a tour together called the "I Can't Sing Anymore" tour. Coverdale's voice is gone.
I am not gonna. Everybody's got their own opinion.
Oh my God! I know people don't realize this, but Howie is a huge Whitesnake fan.
Oh yeah, the older stuff though. The old stuff.
Yeah. Oh, I know. You turned me on to Ready and Willing.
Yeah, the Bernie Marsden and Mickey Moody years were.
Ready and Willing is such an underrated, overlooked, fantastic album.
It's a desert island record, and at the NAMM show 2 years ago, I finally got to meet Bernie Marsden, and I fanboy gushed, and he was really, really cool. We talked for a while about a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
It's great. And he said that amongst the band members, that was their favorite record from that whole era as well.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I mean, that version of Fool for Your Lovin' is just, that's the tits right there.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, look, we get older. Some guys' voices change. What can you do, you know? They're still putting asses in seats.
Well, the reason why I'm more angry about it than you are was I went and saw Whitesnake. I think me and Bingham went in 2010 when it was Whitesnake. They did a double book. It was Whitesnake and Judas Priest.
Oh yeah, was that was here in LA, right?
Yeah, right at the Gibson Amphitheater.
At Universal Amphitheater. Yeah. I was there.
Oh, okay. And you remember Gene Simmons was walking around the crowd for a while in the front, and everyone was like, Gene. And I was, oh, yeah. And the thing was, he comes out, he sings like 3 songs, and then Doug and Reb just went and did like a solo for the rest of the night because you heard him blow his voice out in the middle of like the 3rd song. And I was just like, what the hell is this? I want to hear all the tunes. You know, I don't want to see the wank fest. I was not pleased. But I'll tell you, Halford sounded amazing. Halford sounded great.
Yeah.
Priest had a good night.
Yeah, you know.
Who did we go see? We went and saw Dio before he died, right? Heaven and Hell.
Oh, you talked me into that, and I'm so glad. I wasn't going to go that night at the Greek Theater here in LA. It was his last show here. I was on the fence about going. I'm like, I don't really want to. I was like busy. I'd seen Dio a million times. You're like, come on, and I went, and thank God I did.
I pulled a Peter Griffin on you. I went, come on. You're like, all right, you convinced me. But yeah, we ended up getting. Remember, we had good seats, and we snuck all the way up to like really close, and there was a guy next to me, and he was staring me down, and I'm like, the whole time I didn't want to look at him, and finally I look at him, he's like, Dave. It was like one of the LAPD officers that I had done the gun training with, and the guy was like, yeah. I was like, oh, I thought you were trying to kick me out. He goes, these are your seats now, guys. And we were like. Oh, it was hysterical.
I forgot all about that. Wow.
Yeah.
It was 2010,
I
think, 10 years ago.
Yeah.
9 or 10.
It was like, I think it was 2010.
Yeah.
And Sabbath sounded great. They were a whole step down. Everything was a whole step down, like Heaven and Hell they were doing in D. But Dio sounded great.
Yeah, I mean he was
not a young man.
At that point he was sick, and I don't even think he realized it yet.
Yeah, they sounded great. That was a good show. I'm a big fan of the Heaven and Hell album.
Look, a lot of these guys from the heavy metal era, the heyday, if you want to call it that, they sang themselves into a corner. You know, they were young. They were in their 20s or 30s. They sang up in the stratosphere. Mm-hmm. And, you know, they have to recreate that now in their 60s and 70s. People are so judgmental, like, oh my God, that guy sucks now. Like, how do you expect them to sing high B's and C's? Your body changes. There's a few guys. I don't
mind if they drop the tuning down, but
that's fine. There's a few guys who are blessed that can still do it, and there's other guys that, you know, just unfortunately is a lot more difficult for them now.
Yeah. Were you ever a Kiss fan?
The makeup years when I was a kid, sure, that was my
Oh,
first
right.
concert.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
My
Right.
mom took me to see them in January of '78 on a Live 2 tour. I was in third grade, my first show ever.
Unbelievable.
Yeah,
Unbelievable. And let me ask you this: what's your favorite Kiss album?
that's a tough one.
No live or greatest hits. Has to be a release.
Well, the first record, they had I had this weird memory of seeing a TV commercial for them when I was like a little kid, second grade. And a couple of years ago, I Googled it, and it actually existed. They had a TV commercial for Rock and Roll Over where it makes them look like superheroes. You can find it on YouTube. Just Google Kiss Rock and Roll Over commercial.
Yeah.
And I was at a friend's house. I remember exactly where I was. And we saw it, and we're like, oh, my God, what was that? You know, fire breathing and
Right.
crazy and rock and roll. And I found out what it was somehow, who knows how. And my mother went and got the record for me. So I think just for nostalgia's sake, I'd have to say Rock and Roll Over. You know, if I thought about it song by song, maybe I'd change my mind. But I got that in, and I played it over and over again. And she saw how much I loved it. And the story goes from her that Elvis Presley played in Buffalo one time in his whole career. And I think it was the 60s or late 50s, early 60s. And my mother wanted to go, and my grandfather was a strict, old school hard ass and wouldn't let her go.
Sure.
And she resented him for that for a long time, maybe the rest of his life.
Wow.
So she said to herself, I'm never going to be that kind of parent. And so when Kiss came, I was a kid, third grade. Like I said, she bought me a ticket, and it was my birthday
That's
present.
unbelievable.
My birthday's in December, and she took me at the beginning of January.
That's unreal.
Yeah.
That's pretty crazy. My favorite would have been the first. I think it's the first album.
Really?
With Strutter. Yeah, with Strutter
not
and
a lot of people
100,000
say that.
Years.
It's just kind of it doesn't capture any, it's kind of a flat sounding, no excitement.
Oh, I love it. Let
Really?
Me Know is on it. I love that. I also like Dressed to Kill a lot because I think Love Her All I Can is the best song they ever recorded.
That's a good record. I used to listen to that one a lot.
Yeah. I think the first few songs on are a little campy though, with Room Service.
Yeah.
And Ladies in Waiting, I always thought was a little campy. All right, Howie, now 5 albums. You're on a desert. We heard one. Let me hear them.
Oh, no, that's not a desert. What was my desert album?
Your desert album
Ready and
was
Willing.
Ready and Willing.
Okay, I forgot about that. Sorry. Okay, so I get 4 more. This is always so tough because this can change. You know, if you ask me this
tomorrow.
It's gonna change. I still have all the old school CDs behind me.
Nice.
I would go. Well, there's a not so well known Canadian band from like north of the Toronto area where I actually played on the singer's solo record a couple years ago, a band called Harem Scarum. And their second record, which came out early 90s, 91, 92, the album's called Mood Swings. And the guitar player, who's a Facebook friend of mine, is Pete Lesperance. There's not a bad note out of place on this whole record. Harem Scarum, Mood Swings. Unbelievable.
Mood Swings.
Yeah, that's up there.
Okay.
Man, I don't know. I can't.
That's digging deep.
Well, that's just a record that I can still put on over and over and over again and never get sick of it. Oh man, I don't know. There's so much because you think of one and then you think of another. I could say probably something from Gary Moore in his rock years.
Yeah, so Corridors of Power.
Yeah, maybe the first Blue Murder record. Well, I like Victims of the Future better than that.
Really? With Shapes of Things.
Yeah. I think it's a little bit more polished.
They're both great albums, in my
Yeah,
opinion.
no question. I love
I
Corridors.
just think a lot of people always rave about Corridors of Power, so I just assumed that's where you were going to go. But that's good.
It's the next one. I saw him on both of those tours. For the Corridors tour, he opened for Def Leppard and Crocus, and then the next year he played at an old, like, ancient movie theater in Buffalo that they had adapted for concerts.
Do you remember the tune by Crocus, "Winning Man"? I'm a winning man. Gang,
What
gang,
album?
gang.
What album is it on?
It's called Hardware.
Yeah, I remember Hardware. I haven't heard it in years.
Yeah, I used to like that song.
I got to pull that back out. It's been years.
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe the first Blue Murder record with John Sykes would be on there. And, if you'd asked me this question years ago, something with Yngwie, although my tastes have swayed from that a little bit.
Sure. How about something that's not metal? Anything not metal?
Jeff Beck's Wired album, I listen to a lot.
Wired. Okay, nice. With the 54 Les Paul on it that he put humbuckers in, right? On the back? Or the front?
Yeah, I think so.
Or is it a Strat on Wired?
It's Strat on Wired. It's a Les Paul on Blow by Blow.
Right. Okay, it's one on Blow by Blow.
It's wearing a white
Wired's
jacket.
Yeah.
Yeah, Lead Boots is on it. Blue Wind.
Yeah, but a guitar album still. Nothing like.
Oh, you want a non-guitar album?
I'm just saying. I'm just curious. What is Howie listening to when he's like, him and his girlfriend are like, hey, let's listen to something a little bit more.
Oh no, my girlfriend is a hardcore hair metal diehard. Do not put on anything else besides hair metal.
Really? So she's like, put on Fifth Angel.
No, she loves the sleazier bands like LA Guns and Faster Pussycat, but she does like Fastway and she likes Crocus and some of the European bands as well. But if I want to put on anything not related to that, I get punched in the throat.
Were you ever a fan of Giant?
Yeah, oh yeah. Dan Huff is great. She likes Giant too.
Yeah. Yeah. Time to Burn is just a great
amazing.
Yeah, he's great. One of those great players. Well, guys, I will tell everybody here watching, if you're in the LA area or if you go on any of these Monsters or Rock cruises, or is there a website that they can see what your calendar is? And you got to see how we play.
I have a website that's so outdated. I mean, I got to update that. I don't know, just I just do the Facebook thing. It's just the easiest way.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if you had a fan page where people could sit and go, he's going on this cruise. All of a sudden he's Eddie Murphy in the Mighty Shop. You never met Joe Louis.
I mostly do my Facebook, my personal page.
Right.
If somebody just sends me a friend request and I don't know them and there's no message as to why they're sending a request, I won't approve it.
Right.
But if you say, hey, I saw you on Dave's Guitar Channel, I'll be like, oh, okay, cool. And I'll approve it. And then I do update my Instagram. I have a Twitter, which I never go on. I don't know. Nobody cares anymore, Dave. I like the Instagram thing because it's just pictures and it's very little politics and religion and I hate Trump. I love Trump.
Yeah.
All that stuff.
Oh, yeah. It gets so on my nerves. I'm just like, really, this is what you guys want to talk. A friend of mine I went to high school with, he posted something, and I'm like, is this really what you want to talk about? Like, has your life gotten so effing boring that this is your discussion?
Yeah, there are guys who literally it's nothing but politics. Like,
yeah.
And the only thing I'll say about politics is this, and then I don't want to talk about it anymore. I'm fairly certain that at no point in time ever in the history of ever, be it on Facebook or in person, has anybody argued their point of view on politics and the other person said, you know what? You're right. I'm switching my
exactly right.
It's never happened.
Right.
Never happened. Ever.
Yeah.
So
it's a waste of time.
I keep my points of view to myself. There's no politics or religion of any sort on my page.
Very good. I know I delete if I see people, especially there's a whole network of musicians and I see them and I don't know who they are, but then I'll see somebody post like these heavily angry politics and I'm like, you're gone. You're gone. I don't know who you are and I don't care.
Yeah, I agree. I see it all the time too, and people I know are getting. Some of them are getting worse and worse and worse and worse.
Oh yeah.
And as far as interaction, look if you look at their Facebook page, they post that kind of stuff. They have 5,000 friends on there, and they post that, and they get 2 or 3 likes, and then they post something completely non-politics, and they get a few hundred likes. Like, why is nobody learning from this?
Yeah, exactly. This is called math, folks. It's a simple 101. Nobody wants to hear this.
Exactly.
Right. They're avoiding it. They're going by fast, going, I don't even want to see if anybody commented. I just want to get away from it.
Everybody who plays guitar should go out and buy either a Metzebarba Trinity or an M0 Overdrive.
Well,
go spend the money and get the best amp you'll ever own.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking a little earlier. I would say this is also a great time to go on Craigslist and Marketplace on Facebook because some people are going to be needing money that have some nice stuff that they don't really want.
Yeah, I agree. This is going to be an interesting time economically for a lot of people. So, if you're fortunate enough to have some spare money and you're looking for equipment, this is the time to go out and get it.
I also noticed a lot of people aren't buying, because I've had a few guitars on Craigslist. Nobody's even looking, and I'm not even months ago, and I'm not even looking. I'm not desperate to sell it. It's just I wanted to throw it out there, and as you can see, I have a few guitars and nothing. I had one or two. One guy said he was scraping up money. I'm like, whatever, but for the most part, it's really been dead out there, I think, for buying gear and whatnot.
Well, I think there's an ebb and flow to that, I think. Maybe that's why I got such a good deal on that Sir guitar, because the guy just couldn't sell it. I don't know.
Probably, yeah. All right, Howie, thanks so much for coming on to the show. We really appreciate you having you here. It's also really good to see you. And definitely.
This was awesome. Thanks for having me, man. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Oh, cool. And when I come out there again, we'll have to grab a bite. Have you been to Brent's in Northridge, the deli?
No, I've heard of it. I've got delis that are closer, so I never drive that far, but I've heard that it's great.
It's worth the drive. You got to go for the corned beef. They make it fresh. Oh, it's unbelievable.
That's what I get if I go to. I got Jerry's right here. I've got Art's right here.
And, I know what you have. I know you.
In a drunken night in Hollywood, we wind up at Cantor's usually.
Oh, Cantor's. There you go. They'll be pumping your stomach for. Cantor's is scary. You know what's good? Have you gone to Genghis Cohen at all?
Oh yeah, love it.
Oh, it's the best. It really is the best Chinese around.
And you know what they have there? Last time I went there, I ordered a Mai Tai. Fantastic Mai Tai.
Oh,
and
really?
I'm picky about my Mai Tai. Some of them are a little bitter and weird. It was perfect there.
Oh, the food's so good. Folks, when you're in the Los Angeles area, make sure you visit Genghis Cohen. Oh, it's great. That's what me and Bingham used to do on Guitar Talk, by the way. We'd talk about 15 minutes of guitar and 45 about food. We'd be like, he's like, oh, I went and visited a store in Burbank. I'm like, oh, have you been to the Paquito Mas? That's all.
Let's see what restaurants survived this zombie apocalypse too.
Oh, it's gonna be tough. Yeah.
I've never been there, but I guess there's some diner called Swingers that they used in the movie. It was the basis for the movie. I read today that it's out of business permanently because of this whole thing. Permanently.
Wow. Now they closed the Santa Monica one a while ago. There was one they opened a second one in Santa Monica. That's been closed for a long time. The main one got closed. Yeah.
Today there was an article.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of places going under. Some that I'll be happy about and some I probably won't like. But it is a place down in, if you like Greek food, place called Papa Christos. Do you like Greek food at all? There's great gyros there.
Where is it?
It's out. It's on Pico between like Vermont and yeah, it's in the hood.
Yeah, nothing I would. That's
You're
not a
taking
style
your
of
life
food
in
I
your
would.
own hands.
That's not a style of food I would drive to a bad neighborhood for.
Right,
Sushi,
it's
on the
not
other
like-
hand, maybe.
Yeah, it's not like Langa's Deli where you're out, you know, where you get at least a good pastrami sandwich and they're killing you in the park across the street.
What about that place that I've never been there, but I know you've talked about it over and over again? Town Spa Pizza.
Oh, it's the best.
I saw you post a couple pictures of that over the years. It looks like shit, Dave. I gotta say,
Oh,
it just looks awful to me.
Well, first of all, it's bar pizza, so you might not be aware what bar pizza is. But do you happen to watch Barstool Sports? Dave Portnoy, who does the one bite, everybody knows the rules. It's a one bite pizza review.
I've seen it before.
Yeah, he's
one-bite
gone
pizza thing.
everywhere. Town Spa, we gave it 10.
I give that a 10. I love this pizza.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, Sally's a Pizza out in which the pizza looks unbelievable. Down in New Haven, he gave like a 9.3. But he always says the first bite, and then he started deducting points off the spot because he bought a shirt and he didn't like the way it fit. But initial first bite, he gave it a 10.
You can't judge on a shirt. That's bullshit.
No, I know. He was just being ridiculous, but he gave it a 10. But I will say the spa is fantastic. There's a guy that's in LA. He used to work for Sabian, and he came out and he calls me up. He's like, I got a layover in Boston. Can you pick me up? We'll go to Pizzeria Regina in North End. I said, I'll pick you up. I show up in the airport with a Town Spa pizza that we ate on the way to Regina's.
And then it had more pizza?
And then it had a pie. Yeah, we I said, if you're going on a pizza tour, you can't come into Boston without having Town Spa.
Jeez.
That's hilarious. All right, Howie, thanks again so much for coming on the show. And we'll have you on soon, and I'll talk to you soon, I'm sure.
No, thank you for having me, man. This was a lot of fun. Everybody stay safe out there.
All right, very good.
Don't let the sun catch you crying. The night's the time for all your tears. Your heart may be broken tonight, but tomorrow in the morning light, don't let the sun catch you crying.